Milan, March 27th, 1995. A crisp spring morning in Italy's fashion capital. The city hums with its usual rhythm of ambition and elegance. On the prestigious Via Palestro, a man arrives for work, stepping into the grand entryway of his office building. His name is Maurizio Gucci, the heir to a global fashion dynasty, a name synonymous with unimaginable luxury and power. He is 46 years old, at the pinnacle of his career, and completely unaware that he has just taken his final steps. Unseen, a figure approaches from behind. There's no warning, no confrontation, just the deafening crack of a gunshot echoing against the marble, followed by another and another. Maurizio Gucci collapses, his life extinguished in an instant. The assassin vanishes into the Milanese streets, leaving behind a scene of chaos and a question that would grip the world. Who would dare to execute the king of fashion in broad daylight? The investigation immediately stalled. The list of potential enemies was long, filled with disgruntled family members, business rivals, and even whispers of organized crime. But the truth was far more shocking, rooted not in a boardroom, but in a broken marriage. It was a story of passion, betrayal, and obsession that led back to one woman, Patrizia Reggiani, Maurizio's ex-wife. Known in the press as Lady Gucci, she was a fixture of the Milanese social scene, famous for her extravagant lifestyle and her razor-sharp tongue. She once famously declared, "I'd rather cry in a Rolls-Royce than be happy on a bicycle." These weren't just the words of a wealthy socialite. They were a mantra, a chilling glimpse into a mind that equated happiness with status, and status with the Gucci name, a name she had lost. When Maurizio left her for a younger woman, he didn't just break her heart, he threatened her very identity. Stripped of her influence and the power that came with being Mrs. Gucci, Patrizia's bitterness festered into a dangerous obsession. This wasn't just a crime of passion, it was a meticulously planned execution, a corporate-style takedown of a man she felt had stolen her world. She would become known as the Black Widow, the woman who hired a motley crew of criminals, a pizzeria owner, a hotel porter, and a getaway driver, to orchestrate the murder of her ex-husband. This is the story of how a fairy tale romance, born amidst the glamour of high fashion, descended into a dark conspiracy of greed, revenge, and cold-blooded murder, forever staining the legacy of the House of Gucci with blood. To understand the fall, you must first understand the ascent. The name Gucci wasn't just a brand, it was a dynasty forged in the heart of Florence by Guccio Gucci in 1921. For decades it stood as the pinnacle of Italian craftsmanship and luxury, a global empire built on leather, style, and fierce family pride. Into this world, in 1948, was born Maurizio Gucci, the grandson of the founder. Charming, handsome, and with the weight of $1 billion legacy on his shoulders, he was seen by many as the family's great hope, the man who would carry the iconic double G logo into a new era. But beneath the polished surface of the fashion world, a bitter power struggle was brewing. The Gucci family was notoriously fractured, a web of rivalries and resentments. Maurizio, determined to seize control, embarked on a ruthless corporate crusade. He waged a bitter legal war against his own uncle, Aldo Gucci, the man who had transformed the brand into an international powerhouse. By 1989, after years of boardroom battles and public accusations, Maurizio had won. He stood alone at the top, the chairman of Gucci having consolidated 50% of the company's stock. He had the power he craved and a vision to match, to purge the brand of its mass-market image and restore its ultra-exclusive allure. but his methods were less those of a shrewd businessman and more those of a Renaissance prince. The corporate credit card became a key to a kingdom of excess. He acquired a private jet for globe-trotting whims and a sprawling palatial apartment in the heart of Rome. His most legendary indulgence was the Creole, a magnificent 214-foot classic sailing yacht which he spent millions restoring to its former glory. Lavish parties became the norm, with friends and executives flown around the world for extravagant celebrations. While Maurizio believed he was elevating the brand, he was simultaneously sinking the company. Gucci was hemorrhaging money, losing tens of millions of dollars a year under his leadership. The company's finances were in free fall, and the investment group that had backed his takeover, Investcorp, was watching with growing alarm. The boardroom, once his stage of triumph, became a battlefield. But the most catastrophic drama wasn't unfolding in the balance sheets or behind closed doors at Gucci headquarters. It was brewing much closer to home. For years, the driving force behind Maurizio's ambition had been his wife, Patrizia Reggiani. Ambitious, fiery, and unabashedly drawn to wealth, Patrizia had pushed her husband to seize control of the family empire. She revelled in the status, the power, and the opulent lifestyle that came with being Lady Gucci. She was his chief advisor, his partner in the climb to the top. But once he got there, everything changed. In 1985, Maurizio packed a bag for what he claimed was a short business trip to Florence. He never came home. He had abandoned Patrizia and their two daughters for a younger, blonder woman, the interior designer Paola Franchi. For Patrizia, this was more than just heartbreak. It was a declaration of war. The separation wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was an existential threat. Maurizio's betrayal stripped her of her influence, her social standing, and most importantly, her connection to the Gucci name. She was no longer the queen of a fashion dynasty. She was the spurned ex-wife. And as her rage and desperation grew, a dark and vengeful thought began to take root. Milan, March 27, 1995. A crisp spring morning in Italy's fashion capital. Just before 8:30 a.m., Maurizio Gucci, the 46-year-old heir to a global fashion dynasty, arrived at his office on the prestigious Via Palestro. He had recently sold his final stake in the family company for a staggering 170 million, severing his ties to the brand but securing his financial future. He was free, wealthy, and planning a new life with his partner, Paola Franchi. As he stepped out of his car, the city was just coming to life. The air was filled with the scent of espresso and the distant hum of Vespers. Maurizio, impeccably dressed, greeted the building's doorman, Giuseppe Onorato, with a smile and began to climb the short flight of steps to the entrance. He was just moments away from starting his day, but he would never make it through the door. A lone figure, cloaked in a long coat, approached from behind. Without a word, a handgun was raised. 2 shots were fired into Maurizio's back. As he stumbled and fell, turning to face his attacker, a third bullet struck his arm. The fourth, a final fatal shot, was delivered to his left temple. The assassin then turned his weapon on the doorman, wounding him twice before calmly walking away and disappearing into the Milanese morning rush. The execution was swift, professional, and brutally public. Within minutes, the elegant steps of Via Palestro 20 were a chaotic crime scene. Paramedics arrived to a horrifying sight: the last heir of the Gucci empire, lying dead in a pool of his own blood. The king of fashion had been assassinated. The news sent shockwaves across the globe. Who would want Maurizio Gucci dead, and why? The initial investigation, led by Chief Commissioner Filippo Ninni, was immediately swamped with theories. Was it a mafia hit? A business rivalry turned deadly? Revenge from disgruntled family members he had ousted from the company? Or perhaps a deal connected to the new casino he was planning to build in Switzerland? Detectives chased down every lead, from Swiss bankers to the Sicilian mob. But each path led to a dead end. The killer had vanished without a trace, leaving behind no fingerprints, no weapon, and no witnesses who could provide a clear description. For 2 long, frustrating years, the case went cold. The murder of Maurizio Gucci became one of Italy's most baffling unsolved mysteries, a dark stain on the glamorous world of high fashion. The trail seemed to have disappeared forever. Then, in January 1997, a breakthrough came from the most unexpected of sources. An anonymous informant, later identified as Gabriele Carpanese, contacted the police. He claimed to have overheard a man named Ivano Savioni, a hotel night porter, boasting about arranging the murder of Maurizio Gucci. The police were skeptical but desperate. They placed a wiretap on Savioni's phone, and what they heard was explosive. They listened in as Savioni negotiated with the informant, who was now posing as a Colombian agent wanting to silence the hitman. The conversations laid bare an astonishing conspiracy, a tangled web of greed, jealousy, and black magic. The trail led them from the hotel porter to a debt-ridden pizzeria owner, Orazio Cicala, who was identified as the getaway driver. The gunman was Benedetto Ciraulo, a mechanic and Cicala's friend. And pulling the strings, a clairvoyant named Giuseppina Pina Auriemma, who served as the intermediary. But who had hired them all? The wiretaps revealed the shocking mastermind behind the entire plot: Patrizia Reggiani, Maurizio's ex-wife. The woman the press would soon dub the Black Widow. Driven by a toxic cocktail of resentment over her divorce settlement and fury at Maurizio's plan to marry his new partner, she had orchestrated the hit, sealing her ex-husband's fate with a phone call and a promise of 600 million lire. The cold case had just become red hot. This is the story of the murder that nearly destroyed the Double G legacy. Was it greed, or was it a broken heart? Subscribe to Hidden Assets as we dive into the darkest scandals of the world's elite. Welcome to the investigation.